Call of the House and see 10 people here.
I see 10 hands. Therefore, a call of the House is in order.
Thank you.
Yep, please open the machine for a call of the House. Will the sergeants please close and lock the doors? Members, push your buttons to indicate your presence. Mr. Randall, please call the names of those members who are absent. And sergeants, will you please locate the members who are absent?
You've got such a nice place up there. It's just like it's a good office for a week.
It's a good office, man. I don't have to. I can't. If I became a committee chair, I couldn't keep that office though. Maybe they'll let me. I'm vice chair right now. But you're supposed to have a larger office for meetings.
I think it's like 2.
Representatives Arndt, Baisley, Beckman, Byrd, Buck, Buckner, Cutter, Geithner, Hooten, Humphrey, Kraftarp, Melton, Neville, Sane, Sandridge, Sirota, Soper, D. Valdez, Van Winkle, Will.
Sorry, brother.
You cracked me up.
What happened? What else?
Just sitting in my chair, still breathing on it.
Yeah, man. That's because I be eating. I'm gonna eat some food right now. Shoot.
Yes.
Arndt and Hooten and yeah, man. Kraftarp's coming through the door. Come on, Kraftarp. Kraftarp, push your button. It's just Kraftarp, Arndt, and Hooten. There's Hooten. Who knows? I don't know where he is. And I texted him. And I was thinking about calling the names. I just waiting for Kraftarp to. I did not. There she is in the back.
Can you give a thumb point?
If Representative Arndt can push her button, that would be great. Representative Arndt, Representative Mark, if you could push your button, that'd be great. Thank you.
Lower yourself out. Muscle stuff. You sit down and be a little behind the scenes.
Representative Kraft Tharp, if you could push your button, that'd be great. Either color. Thank you.
Okay, I'm calling you. Let me see if
Representative Baisley. Beckman, please push your button when you get an opportunity. Thank you. Representative Buck, there she is. She's walking in. Representative Humphrey, I see you in the back there. If you would mind pushing your button, that'd be great. Thank you, sir. Also, Majority Leader Neville, how you doing? We're looking for Majority Leader Neville. Representative Soper is not here yet. Soper is how they say it. Representative Will, thank you, sir. I appreciate you pushing your button. Minority Leader Neville, thank you. There it is. It's excellent work. There he is, Representative Baisley. Thank you, sir. Representative Geithner, your name was red, and now it's red again. You guys have figured out how to play with the buttons. No, absolutely not. This is how I talk. Representative Geithner, what am I saying? Move the call house be raised.
Yeah.
I move that the call to the House be raised.
It has been moved that the call of the House be raised. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The call is raised.
Thanks.
Majority Leader Garnett. Oh, Mr. Randall, please read reports of committee of reference. Okay.
Committee on Business Affairs and Labor, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 177 be referred favorably to the Committee on Finance. Senate Bill 239 be amended as follows and estimated to be referred to the Committee on the Whole of Favor recommendation. Senate Bill 248 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Committee on Finance, after consideration of the merits, the committee is following. Senate Bill 186 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 255 be referred to the Committee on the Whole of Favor recommendation. Committee on Health and Insurance, after consideration of the merits, the committee is following. Senate Bill 15 be amended as follows and estimated to be referred to the Committee on Appropriations favor recommendation. Senate Bill 73 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 195 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Okay.
Senate Bill 242 be referred to the Committee of the Whole favor recommendation. Senate Bill 228 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 238 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. Senate Bill 245 be amended as follows and estimated to be referred to the Committee of the Whole favor recommendation.
Signing of bills, resolutions, and memorials.
The Speaker has signed House Bill 1023, 1030,
Signing of bills,
1080.
resolutions, and memorials will be printed in the Journal. Delivery of bills to the Governor.
The Chief Clerk of the House.
Delivery of bills to the Governor will be printed in the Journal. Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker. Senate.
Message from the Senate will be printed in the Journal.
We ready? We'll look at it again.
Okay.
Oh, do we need to make the... We need a minute.
What'd you say?
We need a minute, Alan.
Okay. Representative Melton is excused.
What? Oh, stay again? Oh, that funny little hole right over there? Let me circle back.
Alec, are you guys ready? Announcements and introductions. No one has a tribute? Just joking. Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If you really need a tribute read, we don't have one written, but I'd love to talk to you about the Colorado State Fair that happens to be in Pueblo, and I happen to be from Pueblo, and it happens to be in my district, and they're celebrating 150 years. You may not have known that unless you read the poster that we gave you today. Come to Pueblo. August 23rd, legislative barbecue. Stay for the fair. Have some fun. I can get a tribute drafted if you'd like.
Representative Buenteo.
On another Pueblo note, I have good news and I have bad news about tomorrow's green chili cook-off. The bad news is I am still feeling under the weather, so I cannot cook my portion because I don't want to get anyone sick. So I'm sorry. But the good news is I will allow someone else to win this year, I guess.
All right. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's true, Representative Buenteo. I'm confident that I will never win the chili cook-off. Unless, I guess I could bet on it. But, you know, we won't go there. All right. All right. All right, members. I'm going to move a special orders calendar, and the list is up here. And so, with no further ado, Madam Speaker, I move that the following bills be made special orders on April 29th at 6:43 p.m. Senate Bill 240, Senate Bill 40, Senate Bill 150, Senate Bill 175, Senate Bill 180, Senate Bill 241, Senate Bill 8, Senate Bill 156, Senate Bill 157, Senate Bill 158, Senate Bill 188, Senate Bill 193, Senate Bill 198, Senate Bill 227, Senate Bill 239, Senate Bill 255, Senate Bill 242, Senate Bill 245, Senate Bill 199, and Senate Bill 246.
Seeing no objection, those bills will be made special orders at 6:44 p.m. at the request of the Majority Leader. Representative Malika.
Madam Speaker, I move the House now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders.
Seeing no objection, Representative Malika will take the chair.
everything.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. The court rule is relaxed. Mr. Randall, please read the title of the Senate Bill 240.
Senate Bill 240 by Senators Marble and Fenberg, also Representatives McLaughlin and Sane, concerning the regulation of commercial products containing industrial hemp.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 240, and there are no committee reports.
To the bill.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, members, yesterday you got the pleasure of hearing about the companion bill to this one, which is Senate Bill 240, which, as you may remember, you passed a referendum out of this chamber last year, making sure that Colorado had the flexibility to change definitions in the statute to allow us to remain competitive in hemp production and the production of hemp products. So what this does is it concentrates on the production of hemp products, in particular food. Hemp is food. Hemp seeds could actually treat heart disease or reduce heart disease, benefit certain skin disorders, menopause, and aid in digestion. It does a lot of neat things. It is a huge source of protein, and I ask for a yes vote.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Boy, hemp is such a big product in Colorado, and it's really great that we can make it not just a product here, but we can turn it into other products for food and everything that Representative Sane mentioned. I think we should do everything we possibly can to keep hemp as one of Colorado's biggest crops.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with that, this bill will allow the industrial hemp food industry to come under regulation of food manufacturing program at CDPHE, which is the proper department. And again, we are the top producer of hemp in the nation. We want to keep it that way in an increasingly competitive market. And we also want to be #1 in hemp products. So please vote yes.
We are #1.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 240? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 240. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 240 passes.
Make hemp great again.
Mr. Randall, please read the title of the Senate Bill 40.
Senate Bill 40 by Senators Heisey and Fields, also Representatives Carver and Roberts, concerning the establishment of the Colorado Fire Commission in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 40, and there are no committee reports.
To the bill. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill sets up a fire commission with basically the
Representative Carver,
stakeholders.
give me 1 sec. I'm sorry. Members, we're in debate on seconds. If we can please be quiet. Thank you. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill sets up a fire commission, basically the stakeholders that have worked on the strategic plan on how we better do fire suppression and prevent fire across Colorado, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 40? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 40. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 40 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 150.
Rise.
Oh.
She needs a minute to vet them.
Senate Bill 150 by
Mr. Chair. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 150, 4 bills.
Okay. Mr. Randall, please read the title of the Senate Bill 175.
Senate Bill 175 by Senator Foote, also Representative Roberts, concerning the penalties imposed on the driver of a motor vehicle who causes serious bodily injury to a vulnerable road user and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 175 and the Health and Insurance Committee report.
To the Health and Insurance Committee report.
In the Health and Insurance Committee, at the suggestion of Representatives Soper and Will, which was a great suggestion, we added off-highway vehicles to the list of vulnerable road users, as long as you're using that OHV in a legal manner. I'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Health and Insurance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Health and Insurance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The Health and Insurance Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Senate Bill 175 seeks to close a discrepancy we have in our state law where there is no difference in penalty if you're a careless driver and you cause a scratch on somebody or if you put somebody in a coma. This bill says that if you're found guilty of careless driving and you've caused serious bodily injury to a vulnerable road user, a pedestrian, a first responder, a biker, an OHV user, that you could have your license suspended for up to a year and take driving courses or do community service at the discretion of the judge. I think this is a great bill to make our roads safer, and I'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 175? Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's still an honor to serve with you tonight.
And it is still an honor to serve with you, Representative.
Thank you. Still an honor. Members, I come down here, I want to talk about out in the country, on some of these roads that don't have a shoulder, on some of these places that it's pretty dangerous for people to be riding a bicycle to begin with. You know, there are some places and some days and times when probably the bicyclist should be thinking about his own safety too. Over here in Denver, there's bike lanes, there's all kinds of things to help with that kind of transportation. But in my district, we have some serious problems with folks that want to ride right down the middle of the road, or that want to ride right in the middle of the lane of traffic, ride 2 and 3 wide. You know, mixing your bicycle with a 35-foot wide piece of equipment probably is not the smartest thing you could do. But out there in my country, where we're trying to make this happen, we've got people that honestly believe that they can take over the road, and they put themselves at risk. You know, if you won't pull over, and I mean, these tractors are big. I don't know if you guys have been around them, but they're big. And I'm not saying that every bicyclist has this attitude, but I'm telling you there are some. And there are some folks that really take advantage of the fact that they are a pedestrian on wheels. I hope we don't get to the point that we're going to take the driver's license away of an individual that's trying to make a living on the farm. Because I've had some people try to do some very stupid things with me and a large disc pulling behind my tractor. You know, passing a tractor is probably not the smartest thing one of them fellers could do. So I want to bring your awareness to this. I appreciate what's being said. I appreciate what's being done. But this is kind of a broad brush. I want to make sure that we don't paint it too broad. I'd urge you no.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Callan, I appreciate those comments. I have those same types of roads and those same types of situations in my district too. I would never be a sponsor of a bill, and I certainly would never vote for a bill that caused somebody to lose their license unnecessarily. What this bill does specifically is it's post-conviction. So that means that beyond a reasonable doubt, we've already determined that it was the driver of the vehicle who was the careless person. So a biker acting irresponsibly or anybody else breaking the rules of the road that caused an accident, that wouldn't be careless driving. This bill would never apply. This only applies to when the driver is the at-fault person in that accident, which means that it's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt at trial or the driver has pled guilty to careless driving. So it does nothing to cause bikers to have more rights on the road or to
make them able to get away with being careless themselves. It's only post-conviction, and I made sure of that, and that's why I signed my name onto the bill.
Representative Bockenfeld.
It's an honor to serve with you, Mr. Chair.
It's an honor to serve with you, Representative.
Representative Roberts, the difficulty I have with this particular bill is there's already a law in the books, and I think we discussed it in committee, which is reckless driving, that a person could be charged with if they hit someone with a motor vehicle. But this, to my understanding in our discussion, the standard here and the burden of proof is careless driving, which is less than reckless driving. We've doubled the penalty and then what we have for reckless driving. And I don't know why we just didn't go back and increase the penalty on reckless driving instead of trying to create a new law.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you for the question, Representative Bockenfeld. Being convicted of reckless driving will not suspend your license. What we're doing here is adding a sentence enhancer to the crime of careless driving if you have injured a vulnerable road user. So we're not talking about car on car. We're talking about you hitting a first responder responding to an accident, or a biker, or an OHV user. So the reason why this is different is because we want to protect the vulnerable road users, not just any other person on the road. So that's why this is different and separate from reckless driving and separate from careless driving.
Representative Soper. Sorry, Bockenfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And it's an honor to serve with you, Representative.
So I heard this bill in committee, and I also voted for the bill and still plan on voting for it. I also appreciate the sponsor's willingness to add an amendment for OHV to really include all the vulnerable users of the roadway, including county roads. But it's important to remember that if you're going to have a careless driving accident, that the police will come and investigate. And at that point in time, they will determine whether or not to charge you. And certainly upon receiving the summons to appear in court, then you still have the opportunity to mount an offense, a defense or an affirmative defense. And you also have the opportunity to prove that the vulnerable user, so it could be a bicyclist, but also could be a four-wheeler, was at fault or contributed to the accident as well. And then it's after the trial, then it would be with the Department of Revenue as to whether or not to go ahead and take away 12 points on your license that would force you to lose your license. But there's also a provision to have a red license, which allows you to go to and from work as well for a period of 6 months. So I believe that there's definitely sideboards on it. And the other element is, think about your own driving experience. I know I might have had some close calls coming around some corners, particularly between Ouray and Silverton, when someone decides to go bike riding on Red Mountain Pass. That can be quite harrowing when you are also passing another car. But yet, never once was it close enough that it actually involved getting into an accident. It was not close enough to where there was serious bodily injury. And to rise to that level actually takes a lot of work on the part of the motorist as well. I mean, it's definitely a level of not paying attention that results in that, unless you can prove a defense or that the other user of the roadway was in fact negligent. So I do believe that the bill has appropriate safeguards and appreciate it being brought forward. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Bockenfeld.
Thank you. I've already had 2 incidents coming downtown here. Those little green scooters that Denver didn't want, they got put on every corner and the kids grab them and they dart out between cars. And I know that I got to go to trial, but it definitely increased my risk every time I drive down the street, because I've already had 2 incidents where they come flying out from between 2 cars or something. And I'm hopefully that if something happened, I would be able to be found not guilty. But anytime you have an incident, you have that risk of being found guilty, and I could have my license taken away. And there's just too much risk out there today with what's happening, especially here in Denver.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 175? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 175. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 175 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of Senate Bill 180?
Senate Bill 180 by Senator Winter, also Representative McCluskey, concerning the creation of an eviction legal defense fund and in connection with making an appropriation.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And it's an honor to serve with you, Representative.
Thank you. Members, in Colorado, there were nearly 45,000 evictions in 2017. And evictions are both a loss for the individual who is moved out of their home, but also for the landlord. And of those 45,000, we don't know how many children, spouses, partners, or other roommates were also caught up in the process. In my part of the world, along the Western Slope, there are very few civil legal aid attorneys who can help with this process. And for many of those families, particularly low-income families, those resources are even more scarce. People shouldn't lose something as fundamental as housing because they were unable to navigate a complex legal process. There needs to be a greater due process afforded to low-income Coloradans when such significant matters are at stake. Less than 1% of the tenants alone in Denver County were represented by an attorney during an eviction. We are creating in this bill the Eviction Legal Defense Fund, an opportunity to provide resources to indigent Coloradans that will help them with advice on navigating that complex legal process, legal representation if they need it, mediation if that's the appropriate way to go, and best yet, establish clinics for education and other services related to the process of renting a home. With that, I urge your support of the Eviction Legal Defense Fund in Colorado. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 180? Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
So, Representative McCluskey, so I'm looking at the fiscal note on this. Is this an appropriation from the general fund or cash funds? Would you explain that a little more in detail? Because what I'm concerned about, members, on this is wherever it's going to come from, but I can see in the future where this is ultimately going to lead to money coming from the property owner and from the landlord. I'm very concerned about that. So, Representative McCluskey, this $750,000, would you explain that a little more in detail, please?
Representative McCluskey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Liston. It is cash funds that have been appropriated to initially fund the grant program. The grants will be made to nonprofit organizations that qualify for the grants.
Representative Liston.
So thank you. So what would you envision, I mean, for the people that are being evicted? You know, it's not easy to be evicted. You have to go through a lengthy process. You just don't get evicted on a whim. How much money do you anticipate is going to an evictee, somebody being evicted? Would you have some numbers on that?
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Liston. While I don't have specific numbers, the state court administrator will be awarding the funding based on historical experiences within communities. So the funding will be allocated to certain groups, nonprofit organizations that will provide the services, both in advice, navigating the process, not necessarily just legal representation.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So does any of the money go to the landowner? Because it's a loss for the landowner when they have to evict somebody. They have to go through legal expenses. They have to clean the unit. They have to refurbish it. And they have to advertise for it. Does the landlord get any of this money?
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Liston, the idea is to help indigent Coloradans better navigate the process. Hopefully, the outcome, if these services can be engaged early enough, is to keep the individual in their home, right? So that the landlord doesn't suffer a loss in funding in their monthly rental payments, so that the person can stay in their home and that it's mutually beneficial. No, there is no representation for the landlord or property owner. It's for folks who are making 200% federal poverty level or less. So it's for low-income Coloradans who may not have the resources to navigate the process in any other way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 180? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 180. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 180 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title to Senate Bill 241?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy. My apologies.
No problem at all. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 241 until the end of the second reading calendar.
And we've heard the motion. Senate Bill 241 will be laid over to the end of the calendar. Mr. Randall, can we please read the title to Senate Bill 8?
Senate Bill 8 by Senators Priola and Pedersen, also Representatives Kennedy and Singer, concerning treatment of individuals with substance use disorders who come into contact with the criminal justice system and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 8 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, the Senate did the heavy lifting on the Appropriations Committee report over in their chamber, but we did tweak the funding source from General Fund over to Marijuana Tax Cash Fund in the House Appropriations Committee. We ask for your aye vote.
Okay. The question before us is the passage of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The Appropriations Committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is one of 5 bills that we referred out of the Opioid and Other Substance Use Disorders Interim Committee last summer. This deals with those with substance use disorders in the criminal justice system, has a number of provisions working on diversion programs on the front end to try to avoid incarcerating folks in the first place, and then on the back end tries to make sure that if there are folks struggling with substance use disorders while they're incarcerated in jail or in prison, that we're doing more to provide them the medication-assisted treatment that they need. We ask for your support.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My sincere thanks to the law enforcement community, to counselors, to members from across the state of Colorado that came to support this bill. We literally have people dying in jail because they are not getting the appropriate treatment for their addictions. This bill actually provides a pathway to make sure that not only do they not die from withdrawal, but they actually get the help that they need so they're able to get back out, become productive members of society, not return to burden themselves and their families and the taxpayers. And with that, we ask for your aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Representative Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L8 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L8 has been moved and is properly displayed. To the amendment, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, one thing did come to our attention as the bill was moving through the House, and that is that there is a provision of this bill that is somewhat duplicative of a bill that was sponsored by Representatives Weissman and Soper dealing with criminal record sealing, House Bill 1275, that has passed out of the House and is now in the Senate. We did not want to completely remove this until we were certain that the other provision in the other bill was going to pass and become law. So what this amendment does is it makes one section of the bill, Section 4, which deals with the record sealing provisions, contingent on the passage of House Bill 19-1275, such that if 1275 passes, Section 4 of our bill does not become law. If 1275 does not pass, then Section 4 of our bill does become law. We ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L008? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L008. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. L008 passes. To the bill. Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you, Representative.
So I just wanted to come down here and explain why I will be switching my vote from a no in finance to a yes on the floor. I was assigned to finance rather quickly, did not have time to adequately read the bill, was a little bit concerned about the provisions that Rep. Kennedy just addressed regarding record sealing and all of that, but after being able to properly read through and understand what the bill does, I do think it's an important piece of legislation. I would encourage all of you on the floor to consider voting yes. It does get to properly treating those folks that are in jail with drug issues, and I think we'll ultimately end up saving a lot of money in the criminal justice system and in the healthcare system. So I strongly encourage a yes vote on third reading, and I thank the bill sponsor, particularly Representative Kennedy, for his time to walk me through the bill after committee. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 8? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 8. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 8 passes. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 150. 4 more bills, please.
We've heard the motion. Senate Bill 150 will be laid over 4 more bills. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of the Senate Bill 156?
Senate Bill 156 by Senator Rodriguez, also Representative Sullivan, concerning the continuation of the State Electrical Board and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations contained in the 2018 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 156 on second reading, and also the Finance and Business.
To the Finance Report, Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had one amendment during the Finance Committee, with something with direct lighting, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Finance Report. All those in... Did you want to speak? We're going to vote on this, Representative McKean, just, and then, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. No. Finance Report passes. To the Business Affairs and Labor Report, Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. During the Business and Labor, we had a installation with maintenance Class 2 and Class 3 circuits, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Yep, Representative McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And sorry, I was just coming down before. I completely understand where you're going with that. So we had this in Business Committee. As you know, I feel like our duty is to come and tell you what we talked about in committee. So here's what we talked about. We talked a lot about exactly what this bill is about. We didn't get a ton of information there, but what we really kind of hung up on is the fact that we have had a cap on these inspection fees, which was the result of a lot of stakeholder work. It was the result of a lot of talking and negotiation, and this bill removes that cap. It takes that cap away, and it says that anybody can charge whatever they want for one of these fees. When we get something like this, I think we all ought to sit up and take a look, because this is exactly kind of how we walk down this road of, hey, I didn't know that we were doing that. Well, now you know. We are in this bill removing the caps that were agreed to after a very long process, and we're doing it without a whole lot of information about the rationale behind that. So I'm going to ask one question, and then I'm going to urge a no, unless that answer is so succinct and beautiful that we can all move on. But I would ask the sponsor, what was the rationale for removing the caps in this bill on the inspection fees?
Is there any further discussion to the Business Affairs and Labor Report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Business Affairs and Labor Report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Okay. Business and Affairs Labor Report passes. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill continues the activities of the State Electrical Board and the regulation of electricians and electrical contractors, and moves the gives it a 13-year sunset, and I ask for an aye vote.
Representative McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would renew my request for more information. Why is it that this bill is removing the caps on electrical inspections that had been put in place before? And I guess more importantly, what was the stakeholder work done, and what was the rationale behind taking this action in this bill?
Is there any further discussion on Representative Pelton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I happened to fill in that day when this bill was heard in that committee, and I have a cousin that is an electrician. He says that they already pay way too much, and when I told him that fees were being removed, he says, kill that bill. So I urge a no vote also on this bill.
Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the sponsor because in House Bill 1035 that was recently passed was to decouple the cap from the state. But then in the Senate, they agreed to keep a cap, but it was not going to be the same as the state cap. And we did a concurrence and we did a repassage. So I'm not sure if you could explain to me what's being done now.
Representative Liston.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the sponsor. I had a house that was remodeled here a couple years ago, and we did extensive remodeling, as a matter of fact. And so my question to the sponsor is, what is the average cost, or what's an approximate cost for an electrical inspection? I don't know off the top of my head, so would the sponsor be able to answer that for me?
Representative Soper.
Seeing that the questions are not being answered, I can answer those, Representative Liston. So currently, I'm actually having my house remodeled, and I actually just recently had the electrical box rewired. That was $5,000. $5,000. By removing the caps in this piece of legislation, what we're saying is that prices can skyrocket, and that this is probably the most wonderful bill for the electricians lobby and the electricians industry ever. I mean, right now, when I look at anyone I know that's an electrician, they make more than the local lawyers in Delta. Not to disparage the electricians industry, but I do find that quite appalling. And the fact that they're already charging a lot, removing a cap now means they can go through the ceiling. I would urge a no vote on this legislation. It will only lead to more expensive remodels, more expensive new construction. It will completely lead to all forms of the industry increasing their prices. And I believe this is the bad type of public policy that we ought to be stopping. I'm not saying the entire bill is bad. I'm just saying that one element is bad. So because of that, I would ask for a no vote to continue work on this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have a quick question. I guess there's been some questions on this bill in regards to the cap, and I'm just trying to get an answer there. So, Representative Sullivan, can you answer some of the questions that some of our members are asking? Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And on Senate Bill 156, I'd just like to see how many FTEs are in this bill.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see here. I was wondering where the ultimate, something else I'm concerned about is that I see here in the year 2021 that there's going to be $4.3 million and another 35.4 FTEs. I'm wondering if the sponsor or anybody can, answer why we need to have 35 FTEs. That strikes me as being a lot. Is it because of the nature of the bill, or is it because of the sunset? If the bill sponsor or somebody could answer that question for me. Any volunteers? Mr. Chairman, any volunteers?
I don't see any at this time. Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McKean. Oh, Representative Wilson, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, it's not the first time I'm up here talking about sunsets, I realize. And Representative Sullivan, if I understand, we do not have a change in the sunset in this particular bill. Is that correct? Yes.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Representative Sullivan, the question was, we'd talked about the sunset, and this has a 13-year sunset in it. Is that still in the bill?
Representative Wilson.
Okay, the 13-year sunset is still in this bill, colleagues. So tonight you're getting to hear information about this bill, about what we're talking about here on an electrical board. I don't know how many of you have looked at that in depth or at length. I had not. So this gave me the opportunity to do so. If we do not change this bill and shorten the sunset, then my successor will have been here and gone, and that person's successor will be 6 years into their term when we decide to look at this again. I don't think that is the smartest way to run our government when the legislators do not know what's going on.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The issue of removing the cap on the fees was addressed in the negotiations for House Bill 1035. The counties and the industry considered it a settled question, and it was agreed and accepted to remove the cap in this bill. I ask for an aye vote.
Sorry, Representative McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for that answer. It's always a little frustrating when we ask a question we can't get an answer from a bill sponsor, but I appreciate it. Folks, what you just heard from Representative Wilson actually should be of grave concern to you as well. Because what is in this bill is also the licensing where low voltage lines are concerned. Show of hands, how many people in here know what low voltage lines are? How many people in here had that issue on their mind 15 years ago? The only low voltage line you probably had in your house was from your furnace to your thermostat. The low voltage lines you now have in your house run a myriad of things. They go to your thermostat. They can go to window drapes and skylights and other things that open and close, because what we have done is we've started this automation process. Do any of us know where that's going to go? So 13 years from now, do you know what kinds of things are going to be needed in this bill? You are, as Representative Wilson suggested, making a decision today that impacts not only the successors of everyone in this room, but their successors, to the degree that technology and the environment in which we live changes dramatically in that amount of time. Representative Wilson, have you considered possibly amending that to a shorter period of time? That's an interesting idea.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask the members who are here listening, how many of you care about affordable housing? I do. By removing the caps in this bill, what we're saying is that prices can skyrocket for both remodels that will allow new rental stock to come onto market, or for new construction. And as prices continue to increase, housing becomes more and more unaffordable. I think we need to be paying really close attention to this. And we just heard a minute ago from the sponsor that the recommendation to remove the caps was from the industry itself. Coincidence? I think not. I would urge a no vote.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try one more time. I think this is the fourth time or fifth, I'm not sure, to the sponsor. With all due respect, what does it cost approximately now for an electrical inspection? There's got to be a reasonable average cost, and as a result of this bill, if it should pass, what will the cost of an inspection be when we remove the caps? Would the sponsor please like to answer that question? Going once?
Is there any further?
Going twice? No answer.
Representative Benavides.
Thank you, members. I rise in support of this bill. This bill, when the sponsor talked about negotiated, he talked about the negotiation with the counties, because it is difficult to get inspectors out to do random inspections or intermediate inspections. If any of you have done any kind of work, I added a garage, and if you don't get the inspection along the way, then you have to tear it all out. So these random and intermittent inspections really are helpful to the consumer. These are done on behalf of the consumer, not the industry. And with our problems with right now with construction, it is difficult to get qualified inspectors out, because inspecting a electrical job is very difficult. You need someone that's either a journeyman or a master's license in electrician in order to go out and do these inspections. So this bill really does help the consumer, and the consumer, whether you're an individual on a residential or you're a city and county or a governmental entity. So this is a good bill. These recommendations came through the sunset, so I would urge a yes vote on the bill.
Representative McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we just had another piece of this discussion, didn't we, about one, what happens when these caps are lifted, and just how much the inspection fees might go up. So another show of hands, how many people in here have been talking about affordable housing this year? Go figure. So when you start talking about affordable housing, when you start talking about all the fees that we add, when you start talking about just before I dig a hole in the ground, I am $70,000 into fees. So when we say, yeah, we're just going to, as negotiation, we're going to lift the cap, it opens a world where that $70,000 grows. And when $70,000 worth of fees grows, guess what happens to people who want to buy a house? So we also hear that we ought to have journeymen and master electricians doing these inspections. Show of hands in here, anybody who's done one of these inspections? I can leave my hand up. So here's the deal. I have electricians in Loveland, Colorado right now who cannot find a journeyman to work for them, much less the city, much less finding somebody to do that, and when I don't have somebody holding up the inspections that need to get done. So when we start Christmas treeing all the things we want in a bill like this, we need to be very concerned. We need to be very concerned of the multiplication of things that make it harder for people to build a house, remodel a house, do the stuff they need to do to live in our fair state. These are our citizens. These are our constituents. These are the people we serve. We are not serving them with this bill.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think I need to ask this question one more time, because we've already done a bill that's very similar, and that was House Bill 1035. And at that time, we did a bill to decouple the electrical fees from the state. There was a lot of stakeholdering going on, and then in the Senate, they agreed to a cap of 20%, and that passed. And then it came back here, and we did a concurrence, and that passed. And now we're doing this, and I just would like an explanation why that's changed, because we had control of those prices, but now we don't.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L010 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L010 has been moved and is properly displayed. To the amendment, Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this deals with what I was just talking about to Will just a few moments ago. If this bill goes through the way that it is, you all will never hear about this again. None of you in this room will hear about it ever again. If it goes through as it is now, none of your successors will hear about it. None of your successors that serve a full 8-year term will ever hear about it. So what this amendment simply does, and I understand, and I know I talked to Representative Sullivan about this, this is DORA's recommendation to do it to 2032. With all due respect to DORA, if they could get it done to 2097, they'd do it because they don't want to mess with it. This is simply allowing us to know what's going on. I've put in a 6-year sunset. That gives them time to relax and go through some of their other studies. And this allows our successors to at least have exposure to what this bill is all about. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a recommendation from DORA for a 13-year sunset. I ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L010? Assistant Minority Leader Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the sponsor of this amendment. I think it's a very good idea. I think it's a very good amendment. I commend you for doing it. It's a recommendation from the Department of Regulatory Affairs, but that doesn't mean that's the will of the legislature. We speak for our districts. We don't speak for a government department, and I think this is a very well thought out amendment that simply just allows, for many of the reasons Representative Wilson described already, allows the legislature to come look at this again in a few years. And as it's already been said, with all the changes that are happening in the electrical world around our homes right now, this allows us to look at these changes again in just a few years. What is it, 7 years? 6 years? I think that's completely reasonable. It'll probably be non-controversial then, but at least we can look at what's working and what's not and tune up a few things. So I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't going to bring this up, but one of my other least favorite terms on these bills we have is FTE. Look at the FTE on this puppy. If I remember correctly, I think it's something like 35 new additional FTE. Surely with 35 new people, they can look at this in 6 years instead of putting off those 35 people until 2032. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand in support of this amendment. First thing, DORA doesn't represent our districts. We do. And I have actually ran legislation to put guardrails on DORA because of their advice associated with certain bills. We're the ones who represent our districts, so we need to represent. And I like this amendment because, gosh, things can change before 2032, and we need to be great guardians of our taxpayers' money. And if there's things we need to change before 2032 to save our taxpayers' money, make government more efficient, we need to do it. So with that said, I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L010? Seeing none, the division has been called. Division has been called. A division has been called. If a request for a division is made by any representative before the chair, never mind. Gotcha. My apologies. Yep. I got that. Thank you, Marilyn. The question is the adoption of Amendment L010 to Senate Bill 156. A division has been requested. All those in the chamber not entitled to vote, please be seated. Please be seated. All those in favor of Amendment L010 to Senate Bill 156, please stand and remain standing in one place until the count is taken. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand and remain standing in one place until the count is taken. Okay. You may be seated. Amendment L010 is lost. To the bill. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Roberts. Members, we're on seconds, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think we figured out the discussion about the removal of the caps, and I want to recognize Representative Rich for bringing this to everybody's attention. Representative Rich and I ran House Bill 1035, which was signed into law by the governor about a month ago, to solve the problem that Representative Benavidez talked about not being able to get timely inspections, especially in rural Colorado. What that bill did was impose a cap, decoupled it from the state electrical board because that was the problem, but imposed a cap of $120, so 120% above the state fee, and then tied it to the consumer price index for that area. The reason why the sunset in this bill doesn't speak to fees is because our bill, House Bill 1035, is the bill that imposes a cap. So we are not getting rid of a cap on electrical inspections in Colorado because of the recently signed House Bill 1035, sponsored by Representative Rich and myself, and was voted out of this chamber on a vote of 60-1.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to thank Representative Roberts for coming up here and spending time researching to find the answer, so I greatly appreciate that.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, as usual, Representative Benavidez once in a while shapes me up, and she did. She pointed out that the FTE was already in there, so that wasn't an increase in the FTE, so I apologize for that. I don't apologize for the sunset. It's way too long.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 156? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 156. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Senate Bill 156 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 157.
Senate Bill 157 by Senator Winter, also Representative Cutter, concerning the continuation of the fire suppression programs of the Division of Fire Prevention Control and Department of Public Safety in connection with Assembly and the recommendations contained in 2010 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Representative Cutter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you, Representative.
This is simply a sunset bill for fire suppression registration and inspection, just to make sure there's staff to check the fire sprinklers. It's a good thing. Vote yes. I ask for your aye vote.
Representative Cutter, can I get you to move Senate Bill 157?
Sorry. Yep. Can you please move? I move Senate Bill 19-157.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 157? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 157. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Senate Bill 157 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of Senate Bill 158?
Senate Bill 158 by Senator Janal, also Representative Froelich, concerning the continuation of the Pet Animal Care and Facilities Act and in connection with some of the recommendations contained in the 2010 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies and making an appropriation.
Representative Froelich.
I move Senate Bill 158 on second reading.
To the bill, Representative Froelich.
I really want to sing it, but I'm not going to. Don't let the sun go down on the Pet Animal Care and Facilities Act. Pet people and the people who love pets are the luckiest people in the world. But man, do they need regulation. So I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 158? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 158. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 158 passes. Jesus. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of the Senate Bill 188?
Senate Bill 188 by Senators Winter and Williams, also Representatives Gray and Duran, concerning the creation of a family and medical leave insurance program in connection with their creating an implementation plan for a family and medical leave insurance program.
Oh no, they look a little feisty.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 188, the Appropriations Report and the Finance Report.
To the Appropriations Committee report, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Appropriations Committee, we received money from the Appropriations Committee. We appreciate it, and we'd ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussions on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The Appropriations Committee report passes. To the Finance Committee report, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Finance Committee, we just made a couple tweaks to the final product that we'll talk about in a moment that came out of the Senate. We made sure that the public comment period would be open for a long enough time and that the experts that were working on this bill were properly consulted. So I'd ask for an aye vote on the Finance Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The Finance Committee report passes. Yes. To the bill, Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Whoa, man. It is an honor. It's an absolute honor, Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, I'd like to explain why I'm supporting Senate Bill 188 as amended. I escaped domestic violence and battled homelessness to keep my son safe. And in doing that, I lost my job, my home, and my ability to put food on the table for myself and my son. I made a promise that for those who found themselves in a situation like mine, that I would do everything I could to make sure they didn't lose the ability to provide the very basics for their families. A roof over their head, a warm meal, and that's what our Family Bill 188 does. It offers safe leave. Whether you're a waitress, a nurse, a fast food worker, or a doctor or a lawyer, you should have access to paid leave. About 90% of Colorado workers do not have paid leave for family emergencies or having a newborn. The task force we will be creating is an effective way to take a step back, to explore alternatives, and to listen to stakeholders. The task force members will have the opportunity to identify all affordable, financially responsible options moving forward to create a plan that works for everyone. And that's why I asked for a yes vote on Senate Bill 188. Thank you.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Folks, we've got consensus across all walks of the political spectrum that workers should be getting paid leave in this state. I've not heard, I've been working on this bill for a couple of years now, I've not heard a single person say that it shouldn't happen. The problem is with just about every idea, just about everybody who says it should happen doesn't have a feasible, implementable way to make this actually a reality in people's lives. We give them best wishes, we give them lip service, we should say, well, this ought to happen, but we don't have a plan that'll actually result in new moms getting to spend time with their kids, and folks getting to spend time with their dying relatives, folks getting time off when they have a serious disease. And we're all, Representative Duran and I are absolutely in agreement with everybody in this chamber that this should happen, but we care more about just that we should use lip service to say it should happen. We're more about how we're actually going to implement this. How's it actually going to work? How's it actually going to be real in people's lives? And that's admittedly very hard. This bill has had a really hard way down the road in this General Assembly. The bill you have in front of you today with the actuarial study and the committee promises a lot less to working folks in our communities than we initially started with. But again, what we're committed to is not just saying that we believe in family leave, we're actually getting to a place where we're really implementing it, where people are really experiencing it in their lives. And so this is the biggest next step that we could take. We look forward to other bigger steps in the future to where we're not just telling people, look, we've got some thoughts about how this would be better in your life, but we just can't figure out the details, but to actually ironing it out and making life better for the workers in the state who don't have access to this, which again, as Representative Duran said, is the majority of workers. So we'd ask for your support. Thank you.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L 134. Wow. A lot of amendments. And ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L 134 has been moved. Marilyn, does that have to be placed on their desk? This is a multi-page amendment and is placed on everyone's desk. Representative Landgraf to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment was placed on your desk twice, so you should have it at least once. So I'm going to read part from the bill, and it says, Colorado is a family-friendly state, and providing the workers of Colorado with family and medical leave insurance will encourage an entrepreneurial atmosphere and economic growth and promote a healthy business climate. And I could not possibly agree more. Everybody you talk to, Representative Duran, you're absolutely right. There is not a single person that I've talked to in Colorado that does not feel that we need a family leave program. Representative Gray, you're absolutely wrong, because this plan that you're looking at up here had the support of the chambers across the state, other business groups, women's groups. This plan had great support. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it, and then I'll let my colleagues come up and also talk about it. What this does, and it doesn't take away from the study, but it would allow it would allow people to start a leave savings account where they could put pre-tax dollars up to $5,000 a year into an account to be matched, if the employer so chose, by employer contributions. That money would stay in an account to be used for certain purposes that have all the same reasons of any other family leave account. I'm not going to go into all of that. If it's used inappropriately, of course, there is a penalty, which would be like any other, like a medical leave account. And do you want to take over? And anyway, some of the reasons: the birth of a child, the placement of a child with the employee for adoption or foster care, care for a spouse, a child, or parent of the employee if the spouse, child, or parent has a serious health problem, a serious health condition that makes the employee unable to perform work. The other part of this is it allows the employer to, if they pay for leave in addition to the federal amount, they get to take a tax deduction for that, a tax credit, I'm sorry, of 50% for a taxpayer that employs fewer than 50 employees, and 25% for a taxpayer that employs 50 or more employees. So you said there hasn't been a good plan. There is a good plan. Last year, this was actually a bipartisan plan. We didn't get it introduced, but I can tell you it has had great support, and there are other people waiting in the wings who can talk about that support.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Representative, for bringing this amendment forward. Representative Landgraf, I really appreciate this amendment because so many people earlier this year rallied around this concept and said, we don't have to wait for a study. We can have a paid family leave plan this year. The governor can sign it into law, and it's not much different than what we currently already do in Colorado. This is a framework which we have established through the 529 college savings accounts that are wildly popular, where you can put pre-tax money and save for your children to go to college. We have health savings accounts. So for businesses across the state of Colorado, people put money away, pre-tax money. Sometimes they are matched by their employer so that they can plan for a time when they have to pay for out-of-pocket some of their health care costs. Well, this is very similar to something that has worked for Colorado for many years, is approved and appreciated by the business community, doesn't have a big price tag, and we can do it right now. We can pass this bill. The legislation creates at Colorado the mechanism for employees to utilize a leave savings account as an additional resource. Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we do that for people? It might not help everyone, but it will help a large portion of people, just like the 529 savings accounts do, just like the health savings accounts do. This will allow for individuals to take responsibility for their life and put away money in a pre-tax contribution from employees, and they can deduct that amount from the employees' pre-tax. And their employers, they can actually match this money, and they can get a tax credit for it. What an incentive, what a benefit for workers of our state. The Leave Savings Account has a maximum annual contribution of $5,000, very similar to our health savings account, but the employer can match that money, and they will get a 50% tax credit back. This is a great idea. I'm so excited that Representative Landgraf put this amendment up here because we don't have to wait. And for the families in Colorado, they can have relief this year. And it's created from a system that we already utilize to save for college, to save for health care. It's the third leg to the stool of benefits, tax credits, that we give to Coloradoans so that they can plan for the future. This is a market-based tax incentive, and it allows for some personal responsibility. It may not be for everyone, but I can tell you, if it is as popular as the health savings accounts and the college savings accounts, by this time next year, we will be helping out so many families. And I would ask for a yes vote on this amendment.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The genesis for this bill has actually been in discussion with various groups, including a lot of, chamber groups, women's groups, on what provides a viable wage replacement for those periods of time where you want to take maternity leave, paternity leave, do caregiver for family members, where you're taking time off from work, but you need that flow of income. And what would be a viable approach to providing that kind of wage replacement for that period of time? And through the discussions, the idea was if every employee had a right, regardless of whether their employer agreed or not, quite frankly, had a right to set up a family leave account where they could start saving, but with pre-tax dollars, not from net, from their gross pay, and build up an amount in the family leave account. We also heard from employers that many of them would be interested in providing this type of employee benefit. And so they could also donate, put money into the individual employee's family leave account as an employee benefit. And if they chose to do that, that would need to be done equally to all employees, not just upper management, but all employees, regardless of wage level, the same benefit. And that this money that would accumulate, that could then be drawn out for these family leave events, the interest that would accumulate on the family savings account when you drew it out for a qualified event would be tax-free. The employer who chose to contribute or do a match to these individual accounts would be able to deduct this as a business expense and would be further incentivized by a tax credit. And so this is the structure of the family leave program that is part of Amendment L134, and we would ask for your consideration and support.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand in support of this amendment. This is a free market solution, free market amendment to, I guess, the original bill. What I like about this is if we look back at the stats, a lot of small businesses within the first 5 years go under. And I think that just really the main point is there's the first 5 years of any business, there's some sensitivity there. This allows an opt-in. If I honestly believe most employers, want to do what's best for their employees. But at sometimes they cannot do matches, and sometimes they can. I think that this allows where if a business is able to be more prosperous at that time, they're allowed to opt in and do a match. Also, this amendment allows more preparation in the hands of the in the hands of the employee. I think a lot of these bills, a lot of bills that we look at wants to cover up personal responsibility and preparation and education for the future. We all know we're going to have a kid someday. We all know most of us are going to get married. We all know that a bad thing's going to happen in life. And we need a plan for it. And we all know this. We need to be prepared and plan for it and take responsibility for our future. This helps that. It helps the people save for something that they know will happen negatively someday. So again, choose free market solutions. Choose, this is more of a liberty-minded amendment, and I stand in support. Thank you.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'd ask for a no vote on this amendment. We'll walk through a few things. This is a free market amendment to the extent that it's entirely paid for by taxpayers through various tax benefits. So it does give tax money to companies under certain circumstances, and if that's how we're understanding the free market today, that's okay. But it's entirely about tax benefits. It comes entirely out of the general fund. But let's talk about both components of it. One is paid leave savings accounts. So the idea is you have pre-tax money that you can put into account just in case you need paid family leave. One of the problems is, and one of the reasons that an insurance model makes more sense is you don't really always have a lot of notice when you're going to need paid family leave. Probably the most notice you're going to have is when you have a child, because then you've got about 8 months of notice that you're going to need paid family leave. Sometimes you're going to need it in a week. When your dad has a heart attack, you don't really have a lot of notice to save a bunch of time into this account. And so the answer, you could say, well, wait a minute, just save money into this account no matter what. Just put the money in there because you never know what's going to happen. The problem is you don't know what's going to happen in a lot of events in your life, and these kind of accounts only apply to a narrow set of circumstances. So say you say, you know what, I'm going to put some money in this tax-free account of mine just in case something goes wrong in my life. And I'm going to save up a few $1,000s. Let's say you have enough money. I mean, the first problem, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, is that most of the folks we're targeting with this program don't have thousands of dollars to put into an account like this anyway. But let's go beyond that point. Say that happens, and then the crisis that happens in your life is that you wreck your car. And all of a sudden, you've got a need. You can't go to work because you have your car crash and you need to use some of your savings. If that's the need that you have in your life and you want to take money out of this account, you have to pay a 10% penalty to the state. This is a savings account, but it's only for this purpose. And if you bet wrong, if you bet that your biggest financial need you're going to have is paid family leave, even though you don't know whether you're going to need it or not, and instead it turns out to be anything other than paid family leave, then you're paying a penalty to get your own money out of here because the money is locked up for that purpose. And so there's a reason that an insurance model makes a lot more sense for unexpected things in life. You know, as an analogy, you could say for car, instead of having car insurance, we should just make everybody have a $5,000 car savings account in the chance that they run into somebody. Well, that's not how we work because you don't know when these things are going to happen. That's the same way paid family leave events happen. So it's an idea, and it's, I'm not offended by it, and I believe it comes from the right place. It's just a horrible model for actually delivering paid family leave for workers. The second part involves tax credits and deductions, and that's basically saying, well, we'll have the general fund solve this problem. We'll tell employers if you do this, the state of Colorado will pay you for part of it. Now, when we heard the underlying bill for this in hearing, what we heard was it's going to cost millions of dollars to provide no expansion of paid family leave whatsoever. The fiscal note on this bill said it's going to cost millions of dollars out of the general fund just to pay to people who are already providing this leave in the first place. So if we expanded, it already was going to cost millions of dollars for zero expansion whatsoever. If it did expand paid family leave, we would be draining the money out of the general fund, and as you all know, what that means is that's money out of education, it's money out of transportation, it's money out of health care to solve this problem. So I appreciate where the sponsors are coming from. But what I will tell you is that this amendment does not get anywhere close to offering universal paid family leave. There's no one who will tell you whatsoever that it's actually going to expand paid family leave at all, but it is going to drain money out of the general fund and force people into a solution that doesn't make any sense to fit this particular problem. Therefore, I'd ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L134? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L134. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. L134 fails. To the bill. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 188? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 188. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 188 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of the Senate Bill 150?
Senate Bill 150 by Senators Donovan and Sonnenberg. House of Representatives.
Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry you guys called the vote so quickly. I didn't realize the debate was winding down on family. I move to lay over Senate Bill 150 until the end of the second reading calendar.
We've heard the motion. Senate Bill 150 will be laid over till the end of the second reading calendar. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of the Senate Bill 193?
Senate Bill 193 by Senators Janal and Lee, also Representative Tipper, concerning the continuation of the Colorado Medical Practice Act and in connection to continuing the Colorado Medical Board exam, eliminating the 60-day limit on the pro bono license, repealing the requirement that a later admonition be sent to licenses by certified mail, and updating language and making technical amendments.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I have just a brief recess?
We will be in a brief recess. We'll come back to order. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 193, one bill.
We've heard the motion. Senate Bill 193 will be laid over one bill. Mr. Randall, can we read the bill, or Senate Bill 198?
Senate Bill 198 by Senators Todd and Quorum, also Representatives Bunteo and Gray, concerning the continuing management of waste tires in connection with making and reducing an appropriation.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 198.
To the bill. Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of folks don't know, because we only address this every few years, that Colorado is unfortunately the waste tire capital of the United States. We have an unbelievable amount of waste tires that have come from all across the United States in a few locations, and we've been working on mitigating this problem for a while. It's a huge environmental risk, it's a huge public safety risk, and we already have laws in place to address that. The problem is right now we're not making progress the way that we need to. So what this bill would do is create new incentives to encourage to continue to get rid of those waste tires, to remove a public health risk to our community, and we would ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on Representative Bunteo?
Good bill, vote yes. Thank you, sir.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so I have the 2016 annual report for the Colorado Waste Tire Program. And basically, it is saying that we are right on track for meeting all our goals in diversion of waste tires. And so I'm wondering what input we had from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment that was looking for additional funding for recycling of the tires, because it seems like here that they are saying that they're meeting all their goals and that it's a pretty glowing report, and they feel pretty good about where they're going with the waste tire program.
Representative Gray and Bunteo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Beckman, for the question. The benchmarks that we have laid out with the current regime we are meeting, it's also just barely making a dent in the amount of waste tires that we have right now. We have a couple monofills in the state that are filled to the brim, and again, I thought about displaying a picture of the giant mountains of waste tires we have around here, and I decided not to. But the answer is, across our current goals, we are still decades away from actually eliminating the problem, and we would like that to get that done sooner rather than later from a public health perspective. Thank you. Representative Bunteo.
In addition to speeding up the process of getting rid of these unsightly and frankly wasteful tires that are going sky high, the post-production of these tires includes a cement factory that is in Florence, Colorado, and you guys should absolutely, definitely come visit with me sometime because it's a beautiful place. So support Colorado jobs, vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It says, this report says that in 2016, Colorado met its goal of recycling all waste tires generated in Colorado and waste tires brought in from other states. Waste tires were removed from monofills, and waste tire processors processed waste tires in numbers exceeding previous years. Compared to 2015, 5.5 million more waste tires were used in 2016. So I'm just wondering, it's kind of a glowing report. They're very proud of what they have done, and they should be, because they've really picked it up. So I am just wondering why $8 million a year, it's what the fiscal note is saying, is needed for this waste tire removal, recycling, when it seems like we're already doing a great job. And I'm just wondering where, as I'm wondering for so many of these bills, where the need came from and who identified the need.
Representative Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also have a question for the sponsors. One thing that I was curious about with this bill is, does this affect the possibility of using tires in the concrete industry?
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Soper, for the question. Among the Tier 1 uses of the tires with respect to the rebate that exists right here, one of them is the specific use for it in the concrete industry, yes.
Well, thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Representative Beckman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I continue to go back to this report because I'm wondering if the Department of Public Health and Environment asked for increased dollars for fast-tracking this process, or if it is a nonprofit or a company, because they are saying that they are meeting all their goals. Outreach increased 71%, and their tire state recycling rate increased by 3%. And so it does seem like this report would say that they are right on track of what they have in the past believed was the goals and objectives that they needed to keep in order to not only recycle the current tires that we have in Colorado, but the tires that we bring in from other states, which I'm not quite sure why we allow for that, but the report says that we have outpaced or equaled the waste tire generation rate from 2016. It just seems like a 78% increase from a prior year. So I'm wondering if it was the Department of Public Health and Environment, if it was a discussion with the governor, or if this is like the other waste management bill that we saw. Is this being generated by organizations that want to get into this business for an economic development opportunity? Because it is an $8 million fiscal note year after year after year. And I'm just wondering, in this environment, what is driving this?
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I can appreciate that, Colorado, that we used to have this fee, and that we want to take care of the tires that have built up, be it in Representative Benteo's district or Representative Landgraf's district. I know she's got a big tire pile, whatever, farm out there, and there's certainly a number of them around, and they are an eyesore. But let's face it, what this bill is asking for is a 300% increase in the tire fee to go from 55 cents up to $2. That's at least a 300% increase. So what I'm concerned about is, what it's going to cost the consumer every time. So with that, I move L007 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment
L007
L007 has been moved and is properly displayed. To the amendment, Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not the James Bond amendment, but it's the Larry Liston amendment. What this does, basically, I'm kind of willing to meet you all halfway, proposing instead of the fee going to $2, it only goes to $1.50. And still, that's a 200% increase. So I think this is a fair and reasonable thing to do. And I can appreciate what the bill sponsors are trying to do, but let's not run over the consumer either. So with that, I urge an aye vote on L007.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask for a no vote on this amendment. Just a little bit more background on the history of this. The fee was higher at this level before that fee sunset, and even the progress that Representative Beckman was mentioning before came during the time when the fee was, in fact, higher. But I will also say we've been through an intense stakeholder process with respect to this, with respect to the Department of Public Health, with respect to the providers, and have reached the level we have right now. So I appreciate that Representative Liston has offered this amendment where he changes the amount, but based on the fact that we have consensus among the stakeholders who actually work in this industry and have talked with them, I'd ask for a no vote.
So, Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I am sure, and I know that the bill sponsors have spoken to the stakeholders, except maybe the consumers, with all due respect. You know, I know that there's vested interests in the passage of this bill, which I can appreciate, but you know, what about Joe Sixpack out there, and you know, the struggling family, the single mother, the young teenager, whomever. You know, they're getting feed to death. So I am here speaking on behalf of those people that a dollar saved here really means something. So I still urge an aye vote on L007.
Do we have any further discussion on L007, also known as the Larry Liston Amendment? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. L007 fails. To the bill. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 198. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 198 passes. Mr. Randall, can we please read the title to Senate Bill 193?
Senate Bill 193 by Senators Janal and Lee, also Representative Tipper, concerning the continuation of the Colorado Medical Practice Act and in connection with continuing the Colorado Medical Board, eliminating the 60-day limit on the pro bono license, repealing the requirement that the letter of admonition be sent to the licensees by certified mail, and updating making certain technical amendments.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Finance Report and Senate Bill 193.
To the Finance Committee report, Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee report had one small amendment. It was a reviser's note just to ensure that we didn't have conflicting provisions in the statute. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The Finance Committee report passes. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the Medical Practice Act. The slight changes, we're just adopting the Sunset Report recommendations. Came out of committee unanimously, and I believe off the floor in the Senate unanimously. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 193? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 193. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 193 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title to Senate Bill 227?
Senate Bill 227 by Senators Pedersen and Gonzalez, also Representatives Kennedy and Herod, Concerning the reduction of harm caused by substitute stores in connection with authorized tools to obtain supply of opiate diagnostics, specifying the licensed certified hospital major clean syringe exchange site, creating the opiate antagonist research fund, expanding the household medication take-back program in the Department of Public Health and Environment, authorizing person that makes non-automatic external defibrillator available to the public, and also an opiate antagonist available, requiring the Department of Human Services to create a policy concerning the identification of certain individuals with substitute store and making an appropriation.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 227.
To the bill. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 227 is another piece of our strategy to combat the opioid epidemic in Colorado. This deals with harm reduction. One of the things that we referred to this bill as during the committee this summer was the naloxone everywhere bill. This is the overdose reversal drug that saves lives. Furthermore, what we're trying to do with this bill is do more to give tools to local law enforcement to stop the spread of disease for the folks who are still using while we work towards getting them closer to treatment. We ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 227? Representative Williams.
Are we on the report or the bill?
There's no, it's just a bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be brief about this. I think we can make this bill a little bit better. So with that, I move L006 and ask to be displayed.
Amendment L006 has been moved. And is properly displayed. To the amendment, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It just clarifies our intent that we won't be utilizing safe use sites. Please vote yes.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I asked for a no vote. Safe use sites actually aren't in statute, so there's no definition. It doesn't make sense. I asked for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L006? Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in support of this. This has been a very controversial issue this year and coming into this year, and I think it's important that we clarify our intent as a legislature on this issue. And I think it would help to clarify a little, slightly more if we adopted L007. I move L007 and ask that it be properly displayed.
Sorry, Representative Humphrey, is this a substitute or?
Substitute amendment.
Substitute amendment. L007, a substitute amendment to L006, has been moved and is properly displayed. Representative Humphrey, to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is essentially the same amendment. We're adding a little clarification there, otherwise known as heroin injection sites, and I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the substitute amendment L007? Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand in support of this amendment, but actually, because of the heroin injection sites, one of my concerns with this bill that ties into this is that the clean syringe exchange sites, now they are a little bit different with the heroin injection sites, but we've had this discussion before. We have 7 current syringe exchange sites in Colorado. Many of them are with our public health department. In fact, the one across the street gives out about 3,000 needles a day. It's pretty shocking that they would be giving that many needles away. But my concern is that many of them are not managing their programs as they should be, because we have needles in our parks. We have needles along the Cherry Creek Trail. We have needles along the South Platte River. And it makes it very, very difficult for cities and counties and even volunteer groups to clean up because it's so dangerous. We really need to make sure that we don't expand the clean syringe exchange program until they are able to manage the environmental blight that they cause. This isn't gum wrappers. This isn't pop cans. These are needles. that have been used to shoot up heroin. They can carry all kinds of diseases. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars for urban drainage to clean up the trails and their drainage areas because of the encampments. The encampments are toxic in hazmat sites, of course, because of the urine and feces and garbage, but they're dangerous because of the needles. These programs were set up by statute to be one needle and then exchange a needle. Instead, they've been giving it out like Halloween candy. I wish I had the pictures that I showed just a couple of months ago of the needles in our parks and the needles on our trails. Thousands of them discarded. I've actually seen people walk around the Capitol building and pick up needles before the kids come to do their tours. So I support this. I actually think we need to start talking about how we shouldn't have needles in our waterways. How far we've come. From the years ago, 2013, I rode my bike from Littleton to Denver. I'd done a lot of work on parks and trails. It was pristine. That river was clean and beautiful. If you ride it now, 10-ton trucks of garbage and trash and urine and feces and needles, those needles are coming from the exchanges. They didn't fall from the sky. You can't buy them at 7-Eleven. And so our community is upset, number one, with heroin injection sites because of what they have done in Vancouver, of course. But there are a lot of environmentalists. The Greenway Foundation has just released a paper talking about what is happening to our fair city. So I would ask that you support this amendment, that we take a step back, because we shouldn't have needles all over Denver and the metro area. And I think it's interesting that more people don't care, that we become so blind to this issue that you can't even have volunteers along the South Platte doing cleanup anymore. It was something that people have done for years. Families would go down to the Platte. Now people in hazmat suits are cleaning up our rivers. I support this amendment, and I hope you will also.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. We discussed a lot of options in the interim committee this summer. We decided specifically not to put anything related to supervised injection facilities in this bill for the very reason that we knew it was a controversial topic and it needed more conversation. This bill does nothing to do that. To the problem Representative Beckman was addressing, this bill actually does take a step in a meaningful direction. We are allowing for the programs that pick up unused drugs, we're allowing them now to start collecting needles as well. So this bill will do more to get used needles off the streets. We ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I also rise in support of this amendment. We've had a long discussion on this particular topic with the Senate and the House. We actually had some folks coming here who have firsthand knowledge of some of these experiences, but I really just want to make sure that no state money is used in the finding of safe use sites. I think Colorado has spoken about that. I think we heard a lot of Denver families speak up about that in particular. I know the rest of the state would feel the same way. But I really do believe that I don't believe we should spend state money on it. Now, if local governments, some of them have things on the ballot or are considering doing these same things, you know, we can't control that, but I don't think any state money should be used in finding these safe use sites. So I would urge a yes vote on this particular amendment. And I appreciate the sponsors' intent on this bill. I truly, truly do. I think there's some amazing organizations that we've talked to and visited us here in the legislature, by the way. Former addicts who used to be addicted to heroin, who used to be addicted to very hard street drugs, are actually providing some of the best ministry, not only in the United States of America, but there, especially in Colorado. And we have those organizations right here who are addressing that issue head on, meeting people where they are in the street, and providing that guidance from people who have been there and kicked the habit. And it truly, truly is amazing. So 180 Ministries is one of those, but we've had these groups come down and talk to us and show us how these programs are almost 80% effective at turning lives around from hardcore addictions. I think that's worthwhile to mention because state programs have a rate, I think about 6 to 8% efficacy or success rate with these same folks. And a lot of these folks coming out of these programs, when they've tried the other ministries, they found out that it stuck. They became clean and stayed clean. And again, members, I would probably have more of those meetings with those groups. They don't accept state money. I think that is I'm not sure this is the role of government. I think it's more the role of these organizations that are having these phenomenal success rates. So again, I would urge a yes vote on this amendment.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the representative that just spoke, Representative, I have a question for you. Considering you just said that you would support local governments doing their own thing so long as state money didn't go to supervised use sites, can you, I guess, clarify that statement? Because I do believe in local control around these issues wholeheartedly. And quite frankly, if that's what this amendment said, I might support it.
Representative Singh.
Thank you. We can't stop them. I'm not sure I'd agree with it if local governments want to do it, but we can't stop them, I don't believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I just don't think it's the role of state government.
Representative Beckman.
Go ahead. You're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do believe it was a state law that allowed for the needle exchanges to be throughout the state. And so I do not believe that if we ban needle exchanges, that separate towns and communities could go ahead and have them. It's unique that we have them in Colorado. A lot of states don't. I wonder sometimes if we aren't providing needles for the drug industry across the state of Colorado, considering the numbers of needles that we are giving out. And that's why I'd like to move a substitute amendment, L008.
We already have the substitute amendment, Representative Beckman. L007 is a substitute amendment to L006 already.
Okay, I'll continue to speak on this one then.
And Representative Beckman, this particular amendment is about the safe use sites, not the needle exchanges. So if we could try to stay to the amendment,
Okay.
please. Representative Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just had a quick question. If as far as bulk purchases of opiate antagonists, does anybody know the life span of how long opiate antagonists, and if we're buying them in bulk, how long they survive? What's the shelf?
That is to the bill. Can you wait for that question until later?
Okay.
So, okay, we'll wait to get to the bill on that, Representative Buck. Is there any further discussion on substitute amendment L007? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of L007. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no.
No.
L007 fails. To amendment L006, is there any further discussion on amendment L006? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of amendment L006. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. No. Amendment L006 fails. To the bill. Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am wondering if we are not looking for some support from maybe the drug industry for bulk purchases of opioid antagonists. I've read that in other states they've actually donated for schools and public buildings. And so I'm wondering if gifts, grants, and donations may be able to help us with that. And has that been discussed at all? Because they do have expiration date, and so it'll be ongoing. But I'm just wondering if we're going to have, if we're going to ask for donations on that, because I know in other states they have been given significant amounts of donations.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. But with all due respect, gifts, grants, and donations don't even come close to solving this. This is a public health emergency, and this is a drug that saves lives. We need to invest in trying to save lives for Colorado.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move L008 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L008 has been moved and is properly displayed. To the amendment, Representative Beckman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Because I was confused that the heroin injection sites were not specifically the needle exchanges, on page 11 of this bill, strikes line 1 through 6, which would actually allow for the removal of the discussion where the hospitals can provide the needle exchanges. As I had said before, our health departments, you would think they'd be a responsible entity, but we have needles in Cherry Creek. Thousands of needles in a morning volunteers clean up along the Cherry Creek Trail. We have to take a step back and put some parameters on these needle exchanges. The hospitals, of course, will contract out probably from the same entities that are running them today. And it isn't appropriate that we have needles in our parks, our trails, in our communities. And so I'd like to ask for support on this amendment. Getting that piece out will really help this amendment. And I don't know how you can go back to your community and say, yeah, we're going to give out more needles, and they're not being responsible. Because the numbers are significant. Millions in parks cleaned up throughout the years. We need to have tighter control of these needles. We shouldn't be picking them up in the mud, in the river, and our trails, and our waterways. I would ask for a yes vote on this amendment. I think it makes it a much better bill.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To be clear, this is to allow hospitals to operate needle exchanges. A hospital is not a park, it's not a river, it's not a trail, it's a hospital. And they have a lot of needles in hospitals, and they know how to dispose of them correctly. So this is the discretion of the hospital. If they choose to run a needle exchange, that they're able to do so. They've asked for, some of them have asked for this provision. It's not requiring them to do anything. They are licensed. I ask for an aye vote, or no vote on this amendment.
Representative Beckman.
Our health departments have needle exchanges, 7 of them. These needles in our parks and trails that are blighting our environment are coming from these needle exchanges. Our health departments are licensed. They have medical professionals working in them. A lot of them have doctors' offices right in them. A lot of them contract this out. I just hate to see multiplying this problem by allowing needle exchanges. What we have now is wrong. It never envisioned when the bill was passed. It was intended to be needle exchange. What does that mean? You take needles in, and you one needle and you exchange it, or 5 needles and you exchange it. Not these needles where you can clean up buckets of needles across in the South Platte River. I know in Colorado Springs, I've read some articles down there about how bad the needles are and how they actually in the encampments set them up as traps for emergency responders. This is a real problem. So if our health departments, our clinics aren't doing a good job, we need to step back. How many needle exchanges do we need? Are we really going to stop the opioid epidemic by handing out more needles? I'd ask for a yes vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L008? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Amendment L008. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Amendment L008 fails. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 227? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 227. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Senate Bill 227 passes. Yeah, Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 239 until tomorrow.
We have heard the motion. Senate Bill 239 is laid over until tomorrow.
Oh, wait,
Mr. Randall, can you please read the title to Senate Bill 255?
Senate Bill 255 by Senators Cort and Tate, also Representatives Harrod and Escar, concerning the establishment of the ratio evaluation for assessment for residential real property.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 255.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill requires a residential assessment rate to go from 7.20% to 7.15% at the beginning of 2019. It is the annual assessor's bill, and I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I ask for an aye vote on this, as much as we don't like to see a decrease happening right now, especially as we're trying to figure out issues with the Gallagher Amendment. The original forecast had this at a very much lower number, so I'm actually happy to see it sitting at this number. Again, this is just the annual bill that we have to run to set this rate. We appreciate your support on Senate Bill 255.
Majority Leader Neville. Oh, Minority Leader Neville, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I am actually happy to see a decrease. It's much needed relief to our families. So I also urge a yes vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 255? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 255. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Senate Bill 255 passes. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of the Senate Bill 242?
Senate Bill 242 by Senator Garcia, also Representative Kennedy, concerning the creation of an emergency medical service provider license in connection with those specifying the certified emergency medical service provider may obtain a license with the Department of Public Health and Environment. The certified agency medical service provider demonstrates to the department that a certified agency medical service provider completed a 4-year bachelor's degree program.
Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 242.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a simple bill that allows for an optional licensing protocol for emergency medical services providers who want to go above and beyond their current certification. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 242? Seeing none, the question before us is the Representative Liston.
Being very generous. Got to be in the well.
I was trying. I'm here. Members, I rise in support of Senate Bill 242. This is a good bill. It's optional. It's voluntary. This is a good bill. I urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 242. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Liston. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 242? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 242. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 242 passes. Mr. Randall, please read the title of the Senate Bill 245.
Senate Bill 245 by Senator Gonzalez, also Representative Tipper, concerning granting the Department of Human Services rulemaking authority to amend the length of time permitted to satisfy administrative appeal requirements for the food stamp program in order to comply with federal law.
Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Health and Insurance Report and Senate Bill 245.
To the Health and Insurance Report, Representative Tipper.
Thank you. In the Health Insurance Report, we added an amendment that basically reflected an agreement between all the stakeholders involved. I'll sort of speak to the bill and the amendment at the same time. What the bill does is it tries to solve a problem that we have. In federal law, food stamp appeals have to be completed within 60 days. Right now, the state administrative appeal process for all administrative appeals takes much longer than 60 days. So what this bill does is it was a compromise between CDHS and Colorado Center for Law and Policy, who was looking out for the interests of individuals that have SNAP benefits, to try and reduce that time frame in a way that did not compromise due process and substantive rights. And I'm out of breath from running here, so I apologize.
Any further discussion on the Health and Insurance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of the Health and Insurance Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Gee, thanks.
All
miss.
those
Aye.
opposed say no. The Health and Insurance Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Tipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The bill is essentially the amendment that I just described. It allows us to hopefully come into compliance with that 60-day federal appeals process. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 245? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 245. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those in favor say no. Senate Bill 245 passes. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we proceed out of order for the consideration of Senate Bill 241.
We have heard the motion. Mr. Randall, can you please read the title of Senate Bill 241?
Senate Bill 241 by Senators Lee and Gardner, also Representative Weissman, concerning the non-substantive revision of statutes of Colorado Revised Statutes amended in connection therewith amending or repealing an obsolete, imperfect, and inoperative law to support the legislative intent effective meaning of the law.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 241. There are no committee reports.
To the bill, Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is the annual reviser's bill. It is prepared for us by nonpartisan staff to essentially clean up typos and things in the statute, cross-references within our CRS that have been missed, references to federal law that were missed or have changed as federal law has changed. It's not intended to work any substantive change in our law. We have a bill like this every year, Mr. Chair. In the spirit of continuing to clean up things that have slipped through, I move 004 to Senate Bill 241.
Amendment L004 has been moved and is properly displayed. To Amendment L004, Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, members, this amendment is doing two things. The top part is catching an inconsistency that was not caught in drafting previously. Some language was added concerning avoidance of conflict of interest, and the sentence struck out there was intended to have been struck out before, but was missed. The bottom part fixes an effective date so that some language doesn't repeal until the last report that we directed to happen in that bill actually happens. So it's to conform the repeal date to actually the end of what's happening in the bill. I ask for your support on 004.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L004? Seeing none, the question... Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just concerned that it talks about conflict of interest and behavioral health. Can you explain that a little bit more, why that would be crossed out? It sounds like a voting member of the advisory body should not include behavioral health providers that have potential financial interests related to the provision of delivering clinical services. That seems like a pretty important piece.
Representative Weissman.
It's not shown in all caps here, I guess because of the syntax that happens when they do amendments downstairs, but the new language that was added by amendment to the other bill that is in caps in the other bill is that members of the advisory body shall disclose potential conflicts of interest and shall recuse themselves from voting when a member has a financial interest. That's the point, and that is important. So that would remain in existing law.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so we've gone from not allowing it to just having people in there that we know that have conflicts of interest. They just have to disclose it. But because this actually, I mean, I thought this was just kind of cleanup, but this seems to change it because this says we're not going to have it. We're not going to have people that have conflicts of interest, financial conflicts of interest. And the way I think you have it rewritten, it says, so they can sit on the board, they just have to recuse yourself. And we've all seen that, where people sit there and they even part of the discussion and then they get ready to vote and they go, oh wait, I'm going to recuse myself. So when it's financial interest, this is pretty serious. And I'm wondering why we would go from Voting members of the advisory body shall not include members. So right now, this says that whatever this board is, we're not going to have a whole bunch of people that are making money off the decisions that they are currently involved in, and this says that they shall recuse themselves. So I'm just wondering, this seems substantial, and so I'm just wondering if we might, because conflict of interest is a huge issue. And if you have people that are going to make money on a board, which is pretty small, because they're providers, and now we're just allowing them to be a part of all the decisions except they have to recuse themselves for the vote. So maybe I just need a little bit of...
Representative Weissman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for a brief recess.
We will be in a brief recess. We'll come back to order. Representative Weissman.
I withdraw 004.
Amendment L004 has been withdrawn. Representative Weissman.
I renew my call for passage of the reviser's bill as not amended.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 241? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 241. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 241 passes. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow.
We have heard the motion. We will lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow. Assistant Majority Leader Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
We have heard the motion. The committee will rise and report. Do I gavel?
The House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, the committee will basically report it has had under consideration for the recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 8 is minutes, Senate Bill 40, Senate Bill 156 is minutes, Senate Bill 157, Senate Bill 158, Senate Bill 175 is minutes, Senate Bill 180, Senate Bill 188 is minutes, Senate Bill 193 is minutes, Senate Bill 198, Senate Bill 227, Senate Bill 240, Senate Bill 241, Senate Bill 242, Senate Bill 245 is minutes, Senate Bill 255, passing a revised place counter of third and final passage. Senate Bill 239 is laid over until April 30th, 2019, retains place in the calendar.
Representative Malika. You have heard the motion. We have amendments at the desk. Mr. Randall, please read the Liston and McKean amendment.
Representatives Liston and McKean move to amend the report of the committee to hold adverse action taken by the committee in adopting Senate Bill 156 or so Senate Bill 156 is amended lost.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move the Liston and McKean Committee to House Bill 156 and the Committee of the Whole, as to be displayed.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Members, we had a good, lively debate, a lot of questions, no answers. I repeat, we had a lot of questions about this bill, which we still do, but we didn't get very many answers. In fact, I don't think we got any answers. What we're concerned about, what this bill is, it leaves the electrical inspections wide open. Right. Madam Speaker?
Members, can we please be quiet in the chamber?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Remember what a lot of us are concerned about is that this leaves the electrical inspections wide open for large or huge increases in the future. The bill also spends over $4 million just in the first year or so, and it permanently puts into place 35 FTEs pretty much as far as the eye can see. You know, this is regulatory control run amok. So with that, we would ask for an aye vote on the Liston and McKean amendment.
Representative McKean.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you, Representative.
You know, it's become kind of a test to see whether or not you respond. And so, you know, if it just goes quiet, things are going to go badly.
I've disappeared. Who knows what I'm doing back here?
Thank you, thank you. You know, I brought up a part of this puzzle that I think we're all struggling with. We've all seen different bills. We've all seen different ideas for what we should do about affordable housing. You do not want to forget that the way we go about this pushes the costs up for builders. And when we push the cost up for builders, what we really do is we push the ability for those that we've been trying to serve and trying to make sure have housing options, you push those people out of the market. And I actually think this is where, when we talk about how we affect government in this chamber and how what we do here has a living effect on the people we serve and we represent, this is someplace where I want you to pause. If what we do down here is we pass yet another bill and another bill and another bill about affordable housing, and then we go on the backside and figure out a way to raise fees, don't you think it's a little duplicitous? So in the end, what we do is we sit here and say, yeah, we want to solve a problem, but we're going to make the problem worse. So in that vein, I urge a yes vote on this cow.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The other thing is that Representative Wilson also, this is not part of it, but another good reason not to support this bill and to support this amendment is that Representative Wilson offered a good, fair amendment to reduce the sunset. You know, 13-year sunset, that is way too long. Just because Dora says they want it, that's not engraved in stone. Representative Wilson offered an amendment to reduce that sunset to only 6 years. That's plenty of time to come back and revisit this. I urge a yes vote on the Liston-McKean cow. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the Liston and McKean amendment to Senate Bill 156. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Humphrey. Please close the machine. With 25 aye votes, 39 no votes, and 1 excused, the Liston and McKean amendment is lost. Mr. Randall, please read the Wilson amendment.
Representative Wilson moved to amend the part communal diversity action taken by the committee not adopting the following Wilson Amendment L010 to Senate Bill 156, so said been passed and that Senate Bill 156 has been passed.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Wilson Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Please proceed.
All right, members, get ready to vote. Everybody ready? Okay. But hold on. I want you to think about what you're doing before you do that. If you follow along in the order of the bills, Senate Bill 156 was heard, and then there were 5 bills that followed that, 4 of which had a sunset. 3 of which were sunset bills, I believe, actually, and all 4 of those that qualified had a sunset of, wait for it, 2026. None had a 13-year one. I don't do things like this to stall. I don't do things like this to make a point. I do things like this because I believe in them. How many of you read page 23 of the report that was handed out? Oh, maybe all of you didn't get that report. Maybe that was just in committee. There was actually a report that was there. On page 23 of that report, it talked about last year, 61,000 fires, 420 deaths, 1,370 civilian injuries, $1.4 billion in property damage. There may be a few problems in the electrical field. Just saying. And I want you to know this bill does not matter to me personally one iota. When this sunset goes off, I'll be 86 years old. I'll have bigger problems. Doesn't bother me at all. It's just the right thing to do, and it can't hurt. It cannot hurt. No one in this chamber will ever know if this sunset goes through the way it is. None of you will ever know what happens to this bill. You will not know. How many things going well in your life might change in 13 years? Trust me, those of you that are parents that have brought those little ones here, when they're teenagers, things will change. That's all this amendment does right here. That's all this amendment does. You have some control over your life. You have zero control over this bill if it goes through without a sunset. Is it working well? Maybe so. But I want to leave you with this thought before you vote. Everyone listening? This is a thought before you vote. I could swear we're looking at changing the way we do electricity in Colorado. Maybe we want to check on what's happening with electricity in Colorado. I recommend an aye vote.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for a no vote.
The question before us. Silence, please. And if you need to make comments about the amendment, you can do it right here at the well in front of everyone. The question before us is the passage of the Wilson Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Representative Snyder. Mr. Randall, please close the machine. With 31 aye votes, 33 no votes, and 1 excused, the amendment is lost. Mr. Randall, please read the Landgraf amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Landgraf moved to amend the Board of Communal Diversity action taken of the committee and not adopting the following Landgraf, Beckman, and Carver Amendment L134 to Senate Bill 188H shows that in past that Senate Bill 188 is amended passed.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Landgraf amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a great amendment. Gives us an opportunity to provide a family leave bill to Coloradans. Ask for a yes vote.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I discussed at length before, this is a way to say that we're providing a paid family leave without actually providing paid family leave for more workers. I'd ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the Landgraf amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Is there, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 24 aye votes, 40 no votes, and 1 excused, the Landgraf amendment is lost. Mr. Randall, please read the Humphrey amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Humphrey moved to amend the Report of Committee on Diversity Action taken by the committee and not adopting the following Humphrey and Williams Amendment L007 to Senate Bill 227 is so sudden passed, and Senate Bill 227 has been passed.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Humphrey and Williams amendment to the Committee of the Whole report.
Please proceed.
Good amendment, vote yes. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for a no vote on this amendment. Members, we don't have a framework in statute for supervised use sites. I don't suggest we add that to our statutes at this time until we've had a robust discussion about what the General Assembly wants to do with these sites. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the Humphrey amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. After this period, so I don't think there's time. Please close the machine. With 24 aye votes, 40 no votes, and 1 excused, the Humphrey amendment is lost. Mr. Randall, please read the Williams amendment.
Representative Williams moved to amend the Report of Committee on Diversity Action taken by the committee and not adopting the following Williams Amendment L006 to Senate Bill 227 so sudden passed, and then Senate Bill 227 has been passed.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a long night, so I'm going to withdraw this amendment.
Thank you, Representative Williams. Mr. Randall, please read the Beckman amendment.
Representative Beckman moved to amend the Report of Committee on Diversity Action taken by the committee and not adopting the following Beckman Amendment L008 to Senate Bill 227 so sudden passed, and Senate Bill 227 has been passed.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Beckman Amendment to the Committee of the Whole. This is an issue I've been working on all year. I had legislation to try to put some environmental impact requirements on these needle exchanges. We have 7 of them already throughout the metro area in the state of Colorado, health departments. And they're not doing a very good job with making sure that we clean up the needles. We know that we have needles in our rivers, on our trails, and in our parks. Why would we do this? It's not working. We don't want to become San Francisco. They give out 3.48 million syringes. If you see the pictures of the downtown area, they're not exchanging the needles. They're just giving them out. These aren't gum wrappers. They're not tin cans. They're needles. And until we can control and clean up what we currently have, why would we allow this to happen in our beautiful state? I would ask for a yes vote.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for a no vote on this amendment. This is only for hospitals, not rivers, lakes, mud. It's hospitals. Hospitals. Then hospitals. I ask for a no vote.
The question before us is the Beckman Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 29 aye votes, 35 no votes, and 1 excused, the Beckman Amendment is lost. That brings us to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Buck, Humphrey, Ransom, Tipper. Please close the machine. With 40 aye votes and 24 no votes and 1 excuse, the report of the Committee of the Whole is passed. Okay. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, you've been very patient and great today. We're going to do half of the Senate amendments to House bills calendar. So with that, Madam Speaker, I move to proceed out of order for Senate amendments to House bills.
Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for Senate amendments to House bills. And I need a calendar now. Thank you. Mr. Randall, please read the title to House Bill 1189.
House Bill 1189 by Representatives Gray and A. Valdez, also known as Bridges and Fields, concerning wage garnishment reform in connection with reducing disposable earnings by health insurance premiums, reducing the amount subject to garnishment, and providing more detailed information to the judgment debtor regarding garnishment.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur with Senate amendments to 1189.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Folks, when this bill left the House, we were still in negotiation with the Creditors Bar Association, and they weren't in full agreement with what happened. We delayed the implementation the Senate delayed implementation over there as part of getting a final negotiated solution where all of the major stakeholders were on board. So we'd ask for your aye vote.
The question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House bills. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Oh yeah, we should do that. Please close the machine. With 49 aye votes, 15 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1189 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1189 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1189 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote.
So I went home.
Kelly, I think yes to both of those. To the
You're a good man. I appreciate it. Good.
Please close the machine. With 38 aye votes, 26 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1189 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Members on House Bill 1189, I read the vote as 38 to 26, but it was actually, I'm guessing this is someone who switched last minute, 39 to 25. So I want to correct the record that passed 39 to 25. Okay, co-sponsors, please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1244.
House Bill 1244 by Representatives Coleman and Carver, also Senators Fields and Gardner, concerning the Peace Officers Mental Health Support Grant Program in connection with allowing certain agencies to apply for grants for the program and explaining the permissible uses of money awarded as grants under the program.
Thank you. Oh, you go ahead.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur
with the Senate amendments.
Please proceed.
The Senate made a technical amendment. We ask for an aye vote.
The question before the House is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1244. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Baisley and Humphrey. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes, no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
That's
I
right.
move for the repassage of House Bill 1244 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1244 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Representative Buck. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes, no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1244 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1003.
House Bill 1003 by Representatives Hansen and Valdez, A.L. Senators Wood and Story concerning community solar gardens.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 10003.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I think we're going to need a different noise, which is, what do you do in the last week of session when they have 17 pages of bills in their calendar? We need a different noise, perhaps. All right, members, for Senate Bill or House Bill 1003, and since it's Bill number 3, you know it's been introduced a long time ago, but here we are on the last Monday of the session, and we want to concur because the Senate made one very important change. Electricians have to be used for any project over 300 kilowatts as opposed to what we sent over, which was 2 megawatts. So there you have it. The Senate hard at work. Please accept these amendments.
The question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1003. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. I know. Please close the machine. With 38 aye votes, 26 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1003 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1003 is amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. What is that stack? That's what? Buck, Garnett, Humphrey, Tipper. Please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1003 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors.
Yeah, you. Okay. I just can't remember the word. Okay.
Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1138.
House Bill 1138 by Representatives Williams and Melton, all Senators Williams and Priola, concerning the credit of an owner of a vehicle may receive for fees paid to register a motor vehicle before the vehicle is sold, before the registration expires, and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1138.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The reason is because the Senate went ahead and did some technical amendments that were requested by the Department of Revenue. And I also want to echo what Representative Hansen said earlier. This is the Senate calendar, and we don't want any part of that. So please vote yes.
Well said. Representative Melton. Oh, nothing. Okay, he's got nothing to say. Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I know these are some of the best bill sponsors in the Capitol, so I'd love to understand better what conversion to Class F personal property means. Either. No? Okay.
I wouldn't like to know. Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1138. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Caraveo, Catlin, Kennedy. Please close the machine. Oh, Catlin, please close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1138 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1138 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Catlin, Coleman, Kennedy, please close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 1 excused, House Bill 1138 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1183.
House Bill 1183 by Representative Roberts, House Senator Bridges, concerning the placement of automated external defibrillators in public places in connection with making an appropriation.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur with Senate amendments on House Bill 1183.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate added one amendment that further clarified that the business or public place accepting the AED gets to negotiate the terms of the training and installation, and I think it's a good amendment. I'd ask for an aye vote.
The question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1183. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Beckman, Buck, Catlin. Please close the machine. With 57 aye votes, 7 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1183 is passed. Majority Leader Gurnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1183 as amended.
The question before the House is the repassage of House Bill 1183 as amended. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Just a teeny. Please close the machine. With 47 aye votes, 17 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1183 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1222.
House Bill 1222 by Representatives Kipp and McCluskey, House Senator Story, concerning a grant program to reduce the amount of the International Baccalaureate exam fee paid by students.
Representative Kipp.
Members, we would like to concur. Do we have to move to concur with the Senate on this? Actually, we're not really concurring with the Senate so much as the federal government, because the federal government changed the word from individual to student, and so we have to do the same thing.
Say yes. Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The only thing worse, members, than concurring with the Senate is concurring with the federal government. I urge a no vote.
The question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1222. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Beckman, Catlin, McKean. Please close the machine. With 45 aye votes, 19 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1222 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1222 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1222 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote.
Oh, did I do that wrong?
No, we're still on the, this is the bill we're on.
People voting no are going up as co-sponsors or something.
What's happening?
Co-sponsors and the motion is repassed.
It says repass.
Look at the top of the board. It says co-sponsors at the top. That's mine.
Oh.
I know. Sorry. I can reopen it for repassage.
Okay, okay. So we're going to, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Yes, it's clearly the Russians. Beckman, Buenteo, Buck. Buck, there we go. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 22 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1222 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Oh.
I don't know why my name's up there as co-sponsor.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I asked that my name be removed as a co-sponsor on HB 1222.
Representative Singh's name will be removed as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1222. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1247.
House Bill 1247 by Representatives Valdez-Dean Catlin, also known as Donovan and Quorum, concerning a study by the Commissioner of Agriculture on the potential application of blockchain technology in agricultural operations.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur with Senate amendments on House Bill 1247.
Please proceed.
That's an agricultural sound.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With the most recent foodborne illnesses in the Senate, House Bill 1247 will study agricultural operations, track food packaging and distribution with the blockchain ledger, and to safeguard against foodborne illnesses in the world.
Oh, I thought they were foodborne illnesses in the Senate. Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
It is an honor to serve with you.
The Senate wanted to make sure that the provision of data to the advisory group is voluntary and shall remain secure in the databases maintained by the Department of Agriculture. Hopefully, this amendment might ease some of the concerns and fears people had when we brought this bill to begin with. So I would urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1247. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Gray. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes, no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1247 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1247 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1247 as amended. Are there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Humphrey, please close the machine. With 50 aye votes, 14 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1247 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1051.
House Bill 1051 by Representatives Carver and McLaughlin, also known as Gardner and Janal, concerning human trafficking prevention training by the Department of Public Safety.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We move to concur with the Senate amendment.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate to remove the appropriation for the cash fund and add the provision made subject to when sufficient funds are available through gifts, grants, donations, or future appropriations. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1051. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members please vote. Humphrey, Kipp. Please close the machine. With 55 aye votes, 9 no votes, and 1 excused, The motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1051 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1051 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1051 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 64 aye votes, no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1051 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1269.
House Bill 1269 by Representatives Cutter and Sullivan, also Senators Janelle and Gardner, concerning measures to improve behavioral health care coverage practices and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur in the Senate amendments for House Bill 1269.
Please proceed.
There was just a appropriations clause in the amendments, and we ask for an aye.
Representative Cutter.
Vote yes.
The question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1269. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please. Representative Snyder, are you coming to discuss this? Please open the machine, and members, please vote. Buck and Valdez. Please close the machine. With 48 aye votes, 16 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1269 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1269 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1269 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Which one? Please close the machine. With 45, Representative Valdez, how do you vote? Aye. With 45 aye votes, 19 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1269 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of House Bill 1274 on the Senate amendment to House Bills calendar.
Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1274.
House Bill 1274 by Representative Snyder, also Senator Heisey, concerning the ability of the boards of county commissioners to delegate to county administrative officials certain land use determinations affecting subdivision planning.
Representative Snyder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill 1274.
Please proceed.
Yeah, so we have El Paso County, Boulder County, and Douglas County all on the same bill, all behind it. So I ask everybody for an aye vote.
The question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1274. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. McKean, please close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 3 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1274 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1274 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1274 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. McKean, please close the machine. With 56 aye votes, 8 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1274 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the last one of the night, I move to proceed out of order for immediate consideration of House Bill 1239 on the Senate amendments to House Bills calendar.
Mr. Randall, please read the title to House Bill 1239.
House Bill 1239 by Representatives Tipper and Carabeo, also Senators Priola and Winter, concerning the promotion of an accurate count of the decennial census by creating a census outreach program in connection with making an appropriation.
Representative Tipper.
What did she call you? We've been trying to bait you to do that for a month, but thank you, Madam Speaker. I regrettably move that we concur with Senate amendments.
Please proceed. Representative Carabeo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate really just added some reporting. They did an interim report instead of just a final report, and then they changed the bipartisan committee from a governor-appointed structure to a legislative-appointed structure.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1239. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Catlin, Froelich, McKean, and Williams. Please close the machine. With 49 aye votes, 15 no votes, and 1 excused, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1239 is passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1239 as amended.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1239 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Landgraf, please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 24 no votes, and 1 excused, House Bill 1239 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of conference committee reports.
Seeing no objection, the House will proceed out of order. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 90. On page 6.
Senate Bill 90 by Senator Scott, also Representative Gray, concerning the operation of peer-to-peer motor vehicle sharing businesses.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House adopt the report of the first report of the first conference committee.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We met in conference committee. We were unanimous. We did a couple things off of the previous bill. Representative Liston was there. It was exciting. We cleaned up some of the insurance language that we had in the bill, as well as cleaning up some of the language regarding peer-to-peer sharing in and around the airport, and I would ask for your support.
The question is the adoption of the conference committee report on Senate Bill 90. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote.
Do I pass it again as amended?
Buck and Caraveo.
Tomorrow's the 30th.
Please close the machine. With 44 aye votes, 20 no votes, and 1 excused, the conference committee report is adopted. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 90 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of Senate Bill 90 as amended. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please vote. Bachenfeld, Ransom, Valdez. Donald Valdez. Please, Bachenfeld. Please close the machine. With 44 aye votes, 20 no votes, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 90 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until Tuesday, April 30th.
Seeing no objection, we will lay over the balance of the calendar till tomorrow, Tuesday, April 30th. I've got a couple of bills to introduce. Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has
Message
passed.
from the Senate is printed in the Journal. Message from the Advisor.
We herewith
Message
transmit
from the Advisor is printed in the Journal. Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 7 by Senators Pedersen and Winter, also Representatives McLaughlin and Buckner, concerning the prevention of sexual misconduct on higher education campuses.
Senate Bill 7 is assigned to the Committee on Education.
Senate Bill 244 by Senators Winter and Gardner, also Representative Lontine, concerning statutory changes to implement changes to the workplace policies of the General Assembly in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senate Bill 244 is assigned to the Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs. Any other announcements or introductions? Representative Soper.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Please proceed.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. So one thing that I learned recently was that a member received a certificate after saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, I'm not going to call that member out. Last Tuesday, when we went into Wednesday, I did say the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, and I want to speak to fairness and equality. Since we've been hearing a lot about fairness and equality lately, and I just wanted to point this out. So with that, I turn it over to you guys. Thank you.
Monsieur Soper, I will happily get you a certificate for saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I might even put it in a frame for you. Representative Tipper will replace Representative Jackson on Conference Committee for Senate Bill 2 tomorrow. And are there any other announcements or introductions? Seeing none. Representative Herod. Say it again. Yeah. Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have one bill in education tomorrow, 007.
Representative Kennedy, do you want to announce this bill in State Affairs? 244.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, Senate Bill 244 will be added to the State Veterans and Military Affairs calendar for tomorrow at 1:30 in LSBA.
Everything's done. So did he not announce it? He just has to announce it now. Well, he can announce it tomorrow because it's no time. Wednesday, and we're losing votes every day. Today, it's in appropriation? Yes. So have him announce it and you guys can work out and consider it.
Representative Esgar.
Members, just a friendly reminder, it's not super late, but it's still late enough that I think everybody wants to go home, so please move all your information off of your file cabinets, please. Thank you.
The House will stand in a brief recess. Do you want?
Yeah, I'll do finance.
Okay. Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Finance Committee will be meeting tomorrow upon adjournment for a quick bill, and we'll announce the bill number in the morning, but we will be meeting tomorrow upon adjournment.
One more announcement. Representative Hansen.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Members of House Appropriations, we have one bill to add to the calendar for tomorrow. It's Senate Bill 191. So you've got your packets, and we'll have Senate Bill 191 added to the calendar for tomorrow. We'll see you bright and early at 8 o'clock.
Any other announcements or introductions? Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until tomorrow. Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you. I move that the House stand in adjournment until tomorrow, April 30th at 9 a.m.
Seeing no objection, the House will be in adjournment until tomorrow, Tuesday, April 30th at 9 a.m.